at all. I mean, I'm sorry, but yeah, when you spend $15 million in a primary, you're probably going to take that person out. That's not a big surprise. I think more importantly is if you drill down and look at how this race actually took shape, the messaging in this race, the attacks against Bowman had way more to do with the fact that he voted against Biden's infrastructure plan and other initiatives than Israel. That's what the ads were about. The ads were about how this guy was just out of touch with his district and wasn't catering to the needs of the district. Denise knows this. As someone who ran for Congress, it is so important to actually be in lockstep with your voters. I think what we saw with Bowman was someone who just went far outside the mainstream of his own district and got beaten by a local person with a local track record, with local elected office experience. That was the recipe for victory there. A lot of times in primaries like this, you see people kind of airdrop in and try to primary somebody who don't have that relationship with the constituency in the district. That's not the case here. That's why Bowman lost. It had a lot less to do with Israel than people think it does, because the messaging of the race, all the ads, they were about Bowman not voting for the Biden infrastructure bill.
That's great insight. Denise, moving on to you. Do you think this is a bellwether for other progressive Democrats and show how important of an issue Israel is in this election? Because as you know, foreign policy is usually not what gets Americans to vote in November.
Yeah, well, Kurt's right. All politics is local. We know that from doing local politics and congressional politics. And, I really think that this was a test of how the far left progressives are testing actually their own party's ability to be elastic enough to encompass their out of mainstream ideas. And if you see sort of the composition of that district, which is now Latimer's to lose, right? He's going to win because it's a mostly Democratic district. But there's still a general, but you look at Westchester County in the Bronx, and what you see is a real divide amongst generational sort of just thoughts about what America should be in the future, but also demographically. You see that Bowman won overwhelmingly in the Bronx, but in Westchester County, he lost. And so what you're seeing is that divide within the Democratic Party, which is the Hillary Clinton voters, that Westchester area, versus Bronx, where we have AOC coming, we have more progressive candidates coming to campaign for Bowman. And that's what he represented. I don't know that I'm not sure that people were paying as much attention or were able to on the issues. I think Kurt's, often right. But on this issue, I think there was a lot to be said for what Bowman represented, which is that attitude, the anger, the frustration that a lot of folks that are in his demographic feel. But it didn't come across as thoughtful. It came across as more unhinged. And a lot of the words that he said came across as racist and anti-Semitic. I think that ultimately put the nail in the coffin for Bowman.
Kurt, let's move on to GOP Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. She actually won her primary in Colorado after switching districts. What does that all mean heading into November?
I think it just means that if you know you're going to lose in your old district and you change districts, that's probably a good political move. And that's obviously what we saw with Lauren Boebert. She knew that in a rematch in her old congressional district with Adam Frisch, she probably was going to lose that contest, especially after some of the controversies that she had to weather came to light. Moving into a much more Republican-friendly district where there isn't as much of a Democrat target on her back, I think that proved to be a sound strategy, and that's why she did what she did. I mean, last night was really a win overall, I think, for centrists, whether it was in New York or even in Utah, particularly where you had the person succeed Mitt Romney, who did not have the backing of Donald Trump, by the way, won that primary. I think that you're seeing really in both parties, Democrats and Republicans, some of the more centrist elements rise up against the more extreme fringe elements saying, hey, we're still here. We still are relevant. You can't just take us for granted, and we're going to let our voices be heard.
All right, we have less than a minute, but I do want to get in the presidential debate. Denise, former President Trump back in May called President Biden the worst debater he's faced. Now he's calling him a worthy debater. What's the strategy?
Well, I mean, he's lowering expectations, which is really dangerous. He's had to re-up them because actually, if you look back at 2020, Trump lost to Biden after the first debate by 13 points. And so there's no win for him to lower expectations so that Biden can just literally step over that very low bar. What he needs to do is what he always does, which is play both sides of it. On one hand, Biden could come out swinging. On the other hand, he's an old and frail man with a poor memory. And so I think Trump has a lot to lose here. He's early ahead in the polls. If he ends up not having a knockout like he thinks he's going to tonight, then he's going to fall behind because that's what Americans are expecting. And I think Biden has a lot to lose as well. If he gets too far off of really even talking about this convicted felon thing and perpetrating the notion of lawfare, he's probably going to harden people's beliefs that our judicial system's politicized, which doesn't help him at all.
Kurt, quickly, your response.
I think that this is just going to be another one in a long series of, well, they'll go up for a second, down for a second, and 2 weeks from now, we talk about something completely different.
Let's hope so.
All right. We'll be watching, as you know, guys. So thank you so much. Need Kitchum, Kurt Bardella. Thank you.